Hello, I'm Dan Starkey. I play Commander Strax, and you're watching the Omega Files.
Oh, yes, we have finally reached that happy day, New Year's Day. Is it happy for me? No, because I go back to work tomorrow. But, yeah, the Doctor Who's New Year's Day special, Resolution, has now aired, and I guess we're going to sit down here and have a little talk about it. You'll notice I'm wearing a hard hat. That's because I am getting ready for the incoming channel assault, because I got so many dislikes on the last video. Oh, I'm going to quit making them. Oh, go grow up, you little shit. But all right, let's get on with the podcast. I want to hear your guys' views on Resolution. When I call on you, go ahead and give me your opening thoughts on it. We're going to start at the top this time, starting with AJ. Go on ahead. Hit it.
Hi there. Yeah, I was actually quite surprised by this episode. It felt like a mixture of RTD and a bit of Moffat in the writing style, especially with the way it opened with the narration like it was a BBC documentary, which I thought was really cool. I love the Dalek in this story. It felt very like the episode Dalek in season 1 of The Return. And I like the whole dynamic between Ryan, his grandfather, and his dad in this story, sort of carrying through. I mean, that's more or less what the whole story was about, plus throwing a Dalek. I'll go more into depth about what I found, little bits here and there, but yeah, so far it's not too bad.
Alrighty. Okay, let's move on forward. Let's go to Graham.
Oh, there we go. Bloody mute button. How we doing, guys? Slightly hungover today. Really enjoyed this. Best TV Dalek story in yonks. I'm not going to say ever, because I don't want to incur the wrath of certain people online. Why wink? But no, really enjoyable. Good design. Nobody actually felt left out in this, which was surprising considering they threw Ryan's father into the mix. But yeah, I'll touch on what I liked more later, but very enjoyable, and it's good to hear Briggsy back in the saddle.
Alrighty. Okay, Ryan.
Hey, it was an enjoyable episode, compared to most. The Dalek felt like a big threat. I actually felt a bit more intimidated by the Dalek out of the casing than anything else. They got a really sinister tone of voice for it. It had a really intimidating look, and that's I think the thing I like most about this episode is the parts the Dalek were out of the casing. It's very hard to do new things with the Daleks and to take them in new directions when they've been around for ages. So they took a new approach here. They introduced a new type of Dalek, which you could probably explain why it could do certain things that maybe other Daleks couldn't. However, I was a bit underwhelmed when it eventually got its casing. When I saw it making casing, I'm like, oh, okay, this could be really cool. And then when it wheeled itself out, I was left a little underwhelmed by it. I thought it looked a bit silly, but overall, it was great to just see Jodie go up against the Dalek, and yeah, she finally has that moment now. And yeah, the dynamic between Ryan and his dad and Graham always excellent. Was definitely a key point of this episode. Yeah, overall a pretty good special. Didn't do much wrong.
All right, Connor.
Blown away, actually. Thought it was exceptional. It was much better quality than the rest of the series. Even the best of the last series, I think it was better than. Yeah, the Daleks, it was by far the best use I can think of since maybe Remembrance, but certainly New Who-wise, I actually think that this is the best Dalek episode because they were threatening. I actually liked the transformation because it was different. You went from it being out of its casing to it getting a casing. You haven't really seen that before. You just usually get an invasion where a whole Dalek fleet just sort of lands on Earth and then it's all hell breaks loose. But all the characters were great. Charlotte Ritchie as Lynn was fantastic. She did the possession moments really, really well. It was fast paced. I saw a lot of complaints actually on Twitter about the pace. And apart from the Ryan bits, which I thought should have just been cut out, even though it led to a nice resolution at the end, the pacing of this was absolutely ferocious. It was like a movie. It was like an action movie, and it just worked really well for Doctor Who, and it felt new, it felt fresh, it felt dynamic. We've been missing it for the last 10 episodes, I think, and I just think that at the end of the series, it's all just kind of come together kind of nicely. And even Jodie was finding new facets to her performance as well. She showed anger. She showed at the end when we all thought, well, at least I thought that Ryan's dad was going to die. She almost didn't care. It was very new. It was a sort of different performance. It felt like it just really came together in every aspect. And the music, Sega Nakanola, is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, just overall, I think it was just kind of mind-blowingly good, especially compared to recent Doctor Who, where you just ended up underwhelmed or just sort of like, yeah, it was decent week on week.
Alrighty. Okay, moving forward, let's go on over to, well, my order just suddenly flipped. Okay, we were, William.
Hey now, Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, this story really shocked me because it wasn't no surprise that this episode was going to have an appearance of the Dalek, because that was a secret that was not well kept. And the pacing, like Connor said, was real excellent. Now, if they could do this, they could have done that last season, and the season could have stood out much better than what it turns out. In the future, they could pace some stories like this and show some real threats and depth, like the way we've been anticipating to do that. The design of the Dalek was real good. I gotta give him props for that. I kept scratching my head trying to figure out where the rockets and the energy to shoot the weapons came from, because Earth doesn't have that kind of technology yet to do all that. So that's a little mind blower there. The funny part, like we were talking before we started about, thanks to Brexit, that unit has no money and it's not around like that. So I look forward to hearing that in the Big Finish audio. So that'd be funny. The one thing I did not like is Ryan's dad appearing in this episode at all, because if it wasn't for that Dalek attaching itself near the end of the episode, he really didn't do nothing in this story. So in a way, he wasn't needed in this episode. They could have put him in another episode, but unfortunately, there ain't gonna be no episodes this year, because we won't see the return of it till next year. So that's why they threw that in right now. But because in reality, the girl that was in the beginning of the story being controlled by the Dalek, she could have been attacked again in her back, and that would have been stood out right there, because that the guy that we heard in the beginning of the episode that were kissing, he could have been the one to go up to her and to save her like that. So that would have been a good build up there. So Ryan's dad appearing in this story was not needed at all. That was just a way for him to be there and not to use Ryan's granddad that much in this story. So that's why they did that, but it wasn't needed at all. But you got to give props for the special effects. They did a good job on this, and this is one of the rare times that Jodie stood out real well as a doctor right there. So I'll talk more later on.
All righty. Okay, moving forward, Bo.
Yeah, I thought this episode was really epic in my opinion. I like that the Dalek in this episode was doing what Dalek should be doing. Being threatening and exterminating everything. I like the bit where Ryan and his father trying to repair their relationship. I like the scene in this episode where the kids say the Wi-Fi is down, and the mother said, "I guess we'll have to have a conversation." And the kids said, "What?" It's as if they don't know what a conversation is. Yeah, I like the design of the Dalek. I thought it was really good. So yeah, it was a really great episode. I quite enjoyed it.
Oh, BKB? Okay, moving forward. Let's go to DWC.
Initially, and when I say initially, I mean the first 45 minutes, I wasn't really that enjoying it. I was just going through the motions a bit, because a lot of it I was frankly focusing more. Maybe there was some action there, but I was focusing a bit too much on the exposition with Ryan and his dad to really get too invested in it. And that there was some little continuity stuff. I was a bit curious about the Black Archive, because when I first saw Black Archive, I thought, oh, Unit, then it's this company, and now I'm curious what the bloody hell this company does, because apparently they take black market stuff, or is it legit? So I'm focusing on stuff like that, and there's some continuity thing I'm getting a bit annoyed with. No one seemed to know what a Dalek was, and all I'm thinking is, you didn't have that police officer, you had those historical records of destroying the Dalek in the 9th century, and I'm thinking, they stole the entire Earth. Why is no one putting 2 and 2 together here a lot of the time? Why do they not teach about Daleks in schools? But like I said, that's the first 45 minutes. I was bored. Then we see the Dalek, and everything changes to me. It's all the action. Everything is exciting again. And even though when we saw the Dalek first being constructed, we see a little bit of it, and I thought it was going to be rubbish, but I thought, well, I'll give it a pass because it's meant to look a bit rubbish, a bit home-strung a bit. And then we see it, and I'm like, oh, wow, that is much better than I thought it was going to be. And as Connor was even pointing out earlier, the bit with Ryan, we kind of looked like he was going to die. To be honest, I didn't know what way it was going to go. I thought, is he going to die? Is he going to survive? Is Ryan going to go with him? Was equally what I was thinking. Are they going to kill off Ryan? That would have been a big changer if they actually did that, but they didn't. Overall, yeah, it was kind of boring initially, but really won me back in a big way right at the end, and it is genuinely one of the most impressive things. Also with Jodie, initially with Jodie, I wasn't quite sure of how she was reacting to the Daleks, because whenever we've seen the Doctor react to Daleks before, it's always been anger. I mean, every actor portrays the Doctor in a different way, but when it comes to the Daleks, since it came back, it's always been anger towards the Daleks. And when Jodie realizes, when the Doctor realizes that it's a Dalek, initially it's just more fear and trepidation and the kind of stuff Jodie's been portraying the Doctor before. But then she properly confronts the Dalek, and at this point I'm like, oh yes, this is the Doctor. And she can really move. I don't know if anyone noticed this, but she can really dodge the laser beams really, really great. But yeah, that's everything I can think of so far.
Matter of fact, that's probably what her and her husband did this last weekend. They played Dalek Chase. Okay. Philip.
This was a very good outing for Doctor Who. I mean, I would call this the proper finale rather than what we got last couple of weeks ago. I did like the reveal of the Dalek at the beginning, the kind of the body dysmorphia kind of thing. And that's what it looked like. It was like she took the gown off, and there it was, this giant, the giant thing on her back. And it kind of reminded me of Planet of the Spiders in that kind of retrospective kind of look or feel of it. The voice of the Dalek was really different and good when it's not in the casing. That was a good kind of voice they put there. The story itself, at first I didn't think it was going anywhere because it took its time to get to the Dalek being on her back to go into the factory to make its armor. But it got there eventually, and once you saw the Dalek in its new design, I don't know whether I like it or whether I do or whether I'm not. It's a mixture of both feels for me with that design. But when it was doing the fighting with the army and stuff, and then with the military, that was funny. That was funny because I liked the way it revealed its missiles, and it just wiped them all out with no problem whatsoever. So that was good. The bit with Ryan and his dad, that kind of slowed down the story for me in itself. It just took you out the moment. When you got to the bits where it's getting exciting, then you get dropped into the story about his dad and things. It's like, oh, for God's sake, do we have to? But otherwise, that was good. And yes, Jodie was good in this today. She was very active and very forefront. Lots of TARDIS interior shots, which I quite liked. So I'm happy with that. Overall, it's a good story. But I do wish, like Brian said, you said before the show, that they left it on an ending where you had the Dalek fleet slowly approaching Earth because they got the signal.
That would have been a nice cliffhanger.
Yes, it would have been.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on over to Kevin.
Well, let me start. When I saw that final, that I don't really call final, just like theater, this is the final. This is the season final. Not that, you know what I mean. Not that that fire alarm. That was not the fire alarm. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. When I first saw the squid, I was like, "Oh, right, that's a Dalek." But the funny thing was, I thought that the creature was getting through the sewers, and not on her back. Suddenly, I was like, when she was getting controlled, I was like, oh no, she's not possessed. And then she puts that fin or shirt on and off, and I was like, holy cow. Things are suddenly getting real. I was really getting, they are really threatening this episode. I'm like, why didn't you do this episode in the new season? Why didn't you do that? Like, just why? But, now we can say that the Doctor has finally proven herself that she is the Doctor. Like, she's finally some serious and not some gigglish shit. You know what I mean. But, that's for now.
Okay. All right, Paul.
Happy New Year, everyone. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a surprise, really. I didn't expect I'd enjoy it as much as I did. I thought the cast were brilliant in it. They brought it along. The part with Ryan, his dad, and Graham, I found it a little bit boring. But at the same time, I thought, yeah, it needed to be in, because hence the name Resolution, I suppose, isn't it? So, yeah. Lynn, I've forgotten the person's name who played Lynn, but I thought she was outstanding. I thought she played that part really well, especially when the Dalek had taken over her body. Talking about the Dalek, I thought it was okay. I like the steampunk, if you can call it that, the steampunk version of the Dalek. I don't know why people are getting so upset on Facebook and social media about it, saying they hate this Dalek, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they realise it's the only Dalek. You're not going to see another one like it because that particular Dalek created that outer casing, so you won't see it again. So, but yeah, I thought it was really good. Again, yeah, it really surprised me. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. So, yeah. So, first comments, yeah, I thought it was okay.
Oh, KB? All right, moving forward. Let's go on over to Texas Tim.
Yeah, I agree with everybody to a certain extent. I think it was good. I thought that, you're 50 plus years in, it's hard to find new things to do with Dalek. So this was pretty interesting. The whole idea of body possession, I thought that was pretty cleverly done. It's nothing new as far as sci-fi goes, but we've never seen it done like that. So I thought that was pretty cool and innovative. And until, of course, the only complaint I have about the body it made for itself is that it happened very quickly. It doesn't seem like you'd be able to set up something that quickly with that kind of armor, but I mean, I guess he had all that stuff at his disposal, so that's fine. I agree with everybody that said that Jodie's doctor or the doctor was better in this one. I think I can't tell you if that's the writing or the acting. I think it's a little bit of both. It seemed to be more of a doctorish character than we've seen from the last series, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think going forward, that's hopefully they can put their finger on what it is that's been missing and continue to improve upon it. I did like the throwaway of Unit like that. That was very funny. The way they just kind of said, nah, we can't afford Unit anymore. It's just kind of over. Oh, that was great. I mean, just to be able to write that in and say, guess what, we just threw that concept out. That's pretty clever too. I like that. So I'd say overall it was a good special. It still had some. Oh, as far as the Ryan and his dad thing, I can get where everybody got kind of bored with that. I did too. But I think that this is something they've been doing since the series came back. You've had all this character building for the companions, and it's nothing really new. They've been doing it this series as well, and so this is like the payoff for his drama that he was having throughout the series. With his lack of a father and whatnot. And I guess we can complain about it, but the truth is that's something that's nothing new. RTD brought the whole companion family into it back in 2005, so it's nothing new there. But yeah, overall, I'd say it was an entertaining hour of television. It was pretty good. It was better than a lot of what we saw last series. It wasn't really perfect, but it wasn't horrible either. So.
All right, Okay, let's move over to BFED.
Yeah, I'll probably agree with quite a few of the points that the guys have made. Jodie's characterization, or the way the Doctor was written, was a step in the right direction. There were moments of steely resolve, but I did still find that there were elements of that underplaying humour and a bit of the pulling faces and that, and it's tiresome a little bit after we've seen it. But this was probably the strongest of her character there's been so far. Yeah, the family drama aspect for me, it did take me out of the action, because when it did start building up a good head of steam and everything like that, then you would have a very protracted, long bit where they're just sitting there talking with two people in a room, and it did take me out of it for a bit. I liked like the guys have said, what can you do with the Dalek that hasn't been done before? And I like the sort of Cronenberg, H.P. Lovecraft idea, the sort of body shock element that you had with that, of it attaching itself and making someone a prisoner. I like that. To be honest with you, it played to me a little bit more like a Torchwood episode than it did Doctor Who, to be honest with you. The way it was shot, the cutting of it. There are a few bits that didn't make sense. I liked the idea of the unique Dalek, but the 18 missile launching, clipping the bullet coming out, the shell coming out of the tank was a little bit cheesy for me, to be honest with you. And for me, the only thing that I did find a bit frustrating, to be honest with you, was the Doctor didn't really have a plan in this, to be honest with you. The solution and resolution to this really came from Ryan's dad. I would have hoped for the Doctor to have been the smart one and come up with the solution for it, aided by the friend's companion. So I do feel it was sort of the way that the case was melted and exploded. I found it, the explanation of it, the science babble that went with it, really rushed, and it sort of confused me. So I mean, I've watched this twice, so I've got a fair handle on it. But it was a step in the right direction. The only a couple of bits that did sort of bug me was that the flying CGI was a bit bad, to be honest with you. When, to be honest with you, they've put all the money into it. And for once, I actually didn't like the music this week. I don't know, I found it a bit like a bad James Bond soundtrack, to be honest with you. And it was just like over-stressing the plot points when I don't think it needed to be done, because I think the visuals were doing it more on screen. So, yeah, it's a step in the right direction. No means was it sort of, I think, the most magnificent Dalek episode going, because I still think Dalek, Bob Shearman's Dalek, is a very solid episode. But I'm glad it wasn't, them holding tentacles and singing Kumbaya at the end. So it wasn't that sort of thing, to be honest with you. So it's a move in the right direction, and hopefully, like I say, there'll be lessons learned moving forward when we see it. But I'm ready for a year's break.
Okay, so my take on it. Chris Chibnall, you tubby bastard. You stole my idea. No, the reason why is, any of you who've been around for the nightly calls, I told these guys about how, it was about 10 years ago, I was running a risk campaign. And the party finds this ship crash landed in the future remains of Denver, Colorado. And they find the thing that shot the ship down, or one of the things that shot the ship down. It was the empty case of a Dalek. And sure enough, they find out later the Dalek is hitched a ride on one of the NPCs. He's been riding on his back, and he's stuck these things up into his head, and he's been controlling him. Yeah, I came up with a decade ago. You shit. Just keep that in mind. My lawyers will be in touch. No, I don't like it. But on the right, yeah, really good episode. Like I said, the one thing I do agree on was the fact that, the kept going to the Ryan's dad thing. It did take away from the action. It slowed things down a bit. But the payoff, and I said there was a payoff, was the fact that we found out that Ryan's dad apparently does have some skills. He knew enough to rig up this microwave, take it apart, and turn it into something that could become a weapon. Something to think about. Kind of makes you wonder, maybe there's more to Ryan's dad not being around than we found out so far. Other than the fact he's a shameful bastard. But, well. Okay, I want to get to your guys' questions, queries, and whatnot. Hands have already started flying up. So let's, I think William had his up first. Go ahead.
You know, when you was mentioning about the Dalek taking over the body like that, it reminded me of a movie by Robert Heinlein called Puppet Master. And then the creature attaches itself to the back of the humans like that. But the funny thing that perplexed me is the beginning of the episode that we see, I call it the past, when the guy got shot in the back with the arrow like that. And then you see in the present, you see other parts of the world, like Siberia like that, like an alarm was going off like that. But what's unusual, they never bring these these actors back to to communicate either with the doctor or with somebody else, but that the alarm was going off about something was happening like that, which was bugging me out. Like I thought it was maybe a worldwide threat that there were little Daleks in each part of the world that was waiting to wake up like that. So I was like, they never bring them back like that. Even though, like you said, Freedom, that Ryan's father did the part with the microwave like that, that could have been the doctor's idea, because I didn't feel that he shouldn't have been in this episode like that. It was just for his father to show up in this episode, because we're not going to have no season this year like that. So they just threw that in there. So because whether he would have survived or not, nobody would have cared, because we haven't seen him at all this season. So I would have been more better if the Dalek would attach itself with the young woman from the beginning of the story like that again. And of course, the guy that she likes like that would have helped to get saved her like that. So I thought that would have been a better thing like that. And of course, like you said, the Dalek would have been successful with the signal reaching Scout like that, and that would explain how the Dalek invaded on Earth in 2150 like that. That would have been a good concept. I hope somebody listens to this and brings it up in another season or two of Doctor Who. But anybody complaining on the Dalek design for this story, it was just for this story, considering, as we all seen, the Dalek doesn't survive at all. So that makes no sense. What the griping is all about. The one thing the doctor should have done is she should have rubbed right in the Dalek face that you're trying to communicate with your home planet that I destroyed in Time War like that. Just to rub it in their face is, like, even though we know how it ended like that, just to put him in his place and let that Dalek experience fear like all the other Daleks when they face to face with the Dalek. So that would have stood out pretty good like that. And another thing, maybe this, I don't know what the scheduling was with the filming. This could have been, instead of a New Year special, it could have been one of the regular episodes. And it could have easily bumped Martha, and Martha could have been put on this special today for a historical episode like that. Just to switch it, for at least we could have had a good sci-fi during the season, which would have bumped it up better. And then this one, this could have been today would have been a historical like that. But whether they was going to do it or not, we don't know. It's unusual because, like, when we talk behind the stages, we know they're going to start filming again, which I'm a little bit perplexed about, because if they're going to start filming, I don't know why we're not going to have a season this year. Either that or why they cannot throw in one or two specials during this year. And I'm not even counting Christmas. I'm talking about Easter or something like that. Just throw one or two out there. I mean, there's a lot of people here that they are paying the TV license for this program. So, they should demand at least have something besides this episode today to watch. That's what I'm saying.
Plus, it was really clever the way they did film this episode, because now that I've seen it, when I go back and I look at all the stuff that we accrued over the last few months, as far as filming photos and whatnot, you can tell parts of this were filmed during the filming of other episodes. Like the part where she's sitting in the car and all that, and with the rain going. If I remember right, that was done when they were doing the one set of filming at Park Hill Flats. They had done that separately with another unit. And you can also tell other bits here and there that were filmed during other, and then they, of course, probably went back and they finished it off after San Diego Comic-Con. So they did a really good job with this, by splitting it up into little pieces and then doing the main parts just after. It kind of keeps you guessing as to what's going on. And I kind of like the way they're doing that now. So that way nobody really knows what's happening. Even if you do get lucky and you catch a scene here and there, we really don't know what's being filmed for what. And that's, got to give that guy, kudos on that. Okay, hands flying up again. Let's see. I've lost track of the order, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Let's go to AJ.
Wow. With the whole thing when she's calling up Unit and they say they've gone bust, I reckon she should have tried to call Captain Jack, because technically he's still on Earth at the moment. So, you could have had a voicemail from him saying he's busy with whatever. Also, for me, Jodie really didn't pick off as the Doctor. When she's had those moments where she's like staring off to the distance and talking about the Daleks, I couldn't feel that she was, that thing. I wanted to pat her on the head and give her a cookie. Say, calm down a little, you're okay. That for me, I know I'm going to get hate comments about that, and I don't really care. That's how I saw it, and that's how I felt. If you don't like it, by all means, post a comment. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Well, yeah, one thing I do want to mention now, remember, they did say that Unit is suspended pending a review. They did not say it had been completely shut down. They did not say it had been disbanded. They did not say it's permanently gone. It's just, well, blame Brexit. Okay, Graham.
Just to pick you up on that Unit thing, it's a gag, folks. It's to A, explain their absence in this episode, and B, to explain their absence in either the whole Chibs or just the Jodie era, should he not wish to use them. They're coming back, calm down, put your keyboards down.
Well, they need a keyboard to order for Big Finish.
Well, there you go, exactly. Well said, Will. You want some Unit stories, you've got that to keep you in the loop. There's plenty of Unit stories when the Smithy and Cappy era for you to enjoy. Touching on the whole Ryan and what his father's name was, Aaron? Well, whatever his name was, anyway. Microwave boy, I'll call him. I didn't have an issue with it as much. Parts of it were okay. It was just that scene in the cafe. I'm like, could we move this along, please? There's other shit going on here I want to see. Excuse my language. But no, other than that, just that scene in the cafe really bugged me with regards to that story. I know why it was there. It's, the episode titled Resolution. It's done now. You'll probably never see him again. So we don't have to worry about it. Moving on, folks.
Okay, Ryan, you were waving your hand in front of your screen, so I'm assuming you had your hand up.
Yeah, I didn't know how to feel about the Unit thing initially, but yeah, it was just a gag. But at the same time, I don't know why they couldn't have had Unit, if I'm being honest. But oh well.
Yeah, like I said, I think they just mainly did it because you know how fans complain, during certain. If it happened on Earth, where was Unit? Where was Torchwood? Where was it? I think that's why they did it. It's kind of a gag at the fans. Okay, they're not around because they're getting audited basically. Okay, Texas Tim.
I think some of the dialogue had some of the same problems we've had this last series. The whole business with her lecturing the deadbeat dad. They could have done without that. You could have had Yaz doing that, or even Graham was more appropriate. He'd already taken the guy aside and kind of told him what was what. To have the Doctor doing that is just basically the same kind of virtue signaling that everybody's been complaining about the show over the last year. And I think that was unnecessary because the Doctor doesn't really know the whole circumstances of Ryan's family, and there's every family has their own problems and difficulties to deal with. So I think that could have been left out. I think it makes the Doctor come across as very small, but that's just I think that's just a problem with some of the dialogue they've been using that should be corrected. Having said that, I really like the idea though also of a buried menace that was there for centuries that only just gets uncovered by an archaeologist. It's kind of like Seeds of Doom in a way, where you have them discover something that ends up being a terrible threat. And the fact that it was actually defeated by the Peoples so long ago, I thought that was a pretty cool idea and a pretty good way to set the ball rolling for the episode.
Or here's one that's going to bake everybody's noodle later. What if Aaron Sinclair was working for Unit, and the only reason he was available now is because Unit's under review? Interesting thought. That just popped into my head. See, Aaron, I'm collecting microwaves. Oh, okay. DWC.
Yeah, sorry to go back with this with the Dalek, but you talked to Brian about the thing about how sent the signal to the Dalek fleet in an attempt to have it to invade. But this is the thing. I mean, I go back to the Stolen Earth and all that, because that is the one that really troubles me when you get Dalek stories in this fashion, because this is a signal of Dalek invasion, and all I think is, well, the Daleks have invaded. I mean, yeah, the episodes set before 2050, those were kind of mini invasion things, and they were from time-traveling Daleks, so maybe that can't count. Although we don't really know much about this Dalek. Is that, for all we know, yes, it was in the Earth's 9th century, but for all we know, this one could have equally been a time traveler that came through and everything like that. And so all I'm thinking is, yeah, you can have this Dalek signaling for an invasion fleet, but all I'm thinking is the Daleks are just going to look at that and think, we're going to do a risk assessment here, and we've tried this, and it's gone quite badly for us before. So I just don't know what to think about the whole invasion part, really.
All right, Philip.
Yeah. One thing I did like, which I found interesting, was that the fact that they chopped the Dalek up into bits, and it still manages to be able to pull itself back together again, using certain aspects of what they did. But that's a good idea, and I think that makes the Dalek even more impossible to kill in future stories. If you've got them out of their shell, then it can reconstitute itself and go about doing it. But the CGI for that Dalek itself, the naked Dalek as I'll call it, that was bloody good. It was very good and very realistic for me. I did like that. So there you go. That's what I've got to say for that.
Okay, Kevin.
Well, nobody said that there was no title sequence in this episode.
Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that either. Yeah, it just didn't pop into my head.
I was like, well, I didn't really miss it either way. Because, there was some guy like saying, the Daleks are dangerous and they are in 9th century, and now we've cut them in pieces, and now they are back.
Oh my God.
Almost like a David Attenborough commercial.
No, but Jodie was really bouncing off the happiness a little bit downer than she was in Series 11, because I was getting really annoyed by that, like making dumb jokes about Ed Sheeran, about stupid stuff that doesn't matter in the whole episode. But in this episode, she was finally angry, and when she said yes, wanted to help, and then the doctor said, "Me and a Dalek, no, it's personal." All right, there you go. But with Ryan's dead, I was like, all right. But I was like, all right, let's go. And then, all right, joking. Come on, let's go back to the Dalek. Well, yeah, it was needed for the story because of resolution, But yeah, it was a good episode.
Okay, Paul.
Am I right in thinking that this was set on New Year's Day?
Yes.
Right, so where were all the decorations in everyone's houses or on the streets?
That's a bit nitpicky, isn't it?
Thanks to Brexit, they couldn't afford it.
Oh,
Brexit.
The set designer must be sacked immediately.
Well, just look at the fine Dalek. That tells you that the budget was for this whole episode, like, it's gone.
You got a strong and stable Dalek in this episode. That's good enough.
Oh, well, the CGI was just shite.
No, it weren't.
Strong and stable Dalek. Okay, Connor.
A compliment that I have actually of this episode that I didn't mention, even though I kind of alluded to it with the threatening thing, is the body count. There was a lot of deaths.
Yes.
There's a lot of exterminations that were really well done. And I think that the great thing about this sort of massacre by the Daleks is that he just kind of just rolls into the place and he just exterminates everyone. Usually, like, you'd have the extermination after, like, they've reached their sell-by date as users of the Daleks. This Dalek just didn't take any prisoners, and I think that that's one thing that the show's been missing since God knows when. And another thing that that was pointed out, actually, is things like references like rails. I think that whereas, like, in New Who, you just have a typical Dalek invasion episode, this one felt really informed in, like, the history of the Daleks, and it was well researched. It was well tied into little aspects of canon or extended universe, whatever you want to call it, more so than usual, and it just felt really authentic.
And to be fair, I think the rails were only used in the Cushing movies, other than Big Finish.
No, rails were used throughout the whole classic series.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Even still, it was just well informed, sort of historically. It was good use of Doctor Who information, I guess you could say. It was almost showing. It was a bit flamboyant in Chibnall's sort of fanhood of the series. He was just showing his knowledge off a little bit, flexing his knowledge muscles, and it did add. I thought it added to the story actually, and that's why I think that it should be an encouragement to further use of classic aspects of, or even new Who aspects, but further like David Tennant, Christopher Eccleston sort of era things. It should be an encouragement towards more usage of that sort of stuff than just going for the clean slate sort of thing that they've been going for the past year, really. I think he does it a lot better when he's sort of got a history to play off of rather than just creating his own version of Doctor Who from scratch.
Okay, Beef?
In one aspect, just sort of echoing what Connor said, yeah, I like the idea of the no-nonsense Dalek, to be honest with you. There wasn't negotiation, there wasn't like means or end or anything like that. It was just like, bang, you're dead, and that was it. That was a refreshing change, that it wasn't sort of, oh yeah, we're all going to herd you into pens and everything like that we've had before. So it wasn't bogged down in the way that they have been previously. From that point of view, I did like that. I'm surprised, though, to be honest with you, why, when you've got the Dalek out of the shell and it's already attached to her, that she doesn't already recognise the Doctor at that point, given that she already recognises the Doctor as the Doctor. I don't know. Maybe you can just work that out. I did also like the idea that, the army of the enemies that came together and they went off, and it's sort of like a bit Knights Templar, to be honest with you. For me, a little bit, because there's this fantastic book that they've got there that they made, the illustrated history of it and everything like that. And the guy who's the researcher said, oh yeah, they've got this idea that that company, whatever it is, MZB or whatever, have been buying weapons on the black market. So it seems to be that there's a sort of little conspiracy theory going within Doctor Who. And I'm looking forward to Big Finish Unit Job Club next year too. So that'll be quite a good release as well.
Unit on the breadline. I can see that now. Osgood lands a job in the local shop, ringing up, like old music albums. All right. One quick side note before I move on. If you folks are not friends with him or not familiar, John Davies over on Facebook, and he's normally like, plays a Cyberman. Sometimes he's a Dalek operator and all that. But he put up a lot of great photos over there because he was in the episode as one of the unit soldiers, apparently. So if you want to go over there and take a look, it's real easy to find his page, JONDAVEY. Go take a look at it. He put some interesting stuff up today. Okay, AJ.
I've got a theory that this is the final for the series, because you got in the first episode, the Doctor, we see her making her Sonic in a steel mill or a factory, right? And then this episode, you see another woman who's controlled by the Dalek making the Dalek casing in the same fashion, swinging the hammer, sparks going everywhere. So I think that's like a perfect book ending for the series. You got women who are, forging fire and steel.
All I could think of is Dalek. Now we've added Sheffield steel.
Okay, DWC.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point about how stupid was this Dalek to an extent. I mean, there's just one point that's actually really bugged me with the Dalek, and note how quickly it was able to take control of Aaron quite effectively. When we first see the Dalek, we see that researcher. I can't remember her name, but she sees the Dalek. We're then cutting to the Doctor and the companions there like that, and then should the researchers come in? Oh, I've seen something. It's right here. Oh, Doctor's saying I need to take a sample. The Dalek was already controlled his body. Did he actually just let the Doctor? I know he doesn't realize it's the Doctor at the time. Did he actually just let the Doctor find the thing that would help identify it? That's one thing that's kind of bugging me about this possession. How far was he controlling?
Yeah, it may not have been fully in control yet. That's a possibility. I didn't even think of that. That's a good point. All right, Philip.
Oh, it's nothing. It was just the fact that I also like the fact that the Daleks' appendages were quite different, especially the claw hand. Rather than having the sucker, you got a little claw finger thing. And when it was doing that, turning that knob thing, I thought that was very nicely realized. And the gun itself, when it's firing, it's almost as if it's got double strength in it because it's so powerful when it's exterminated rather than what you could normally get. So that was quite nice to see as well, that it's stronger than the average Dalek.
Okay, Graham?
No, I'd agree with that, Phil. Not a bad design for the Dalek overall. Just one lifting little feature I did enjoy when the TARDIS tracking the navigation system was disabled briefly. I liked the wee mechanism that imprisoned the holograms that enabled it to communicate to both Lynn and the Dalek. I thought that was a nice touch and something somewhat, while no completely new, something different.
Okay, Ryan?
One thing that did slightly bother me with the Dalek is a bit of the explanation they gave to it. So they said that it was a recon scout, probably one of the first to leave Skaro. I'm going to assume it was some sort of special Dalek, because obviously the Daleks weren't even able to leave the confines of their city. So I presume that this was probably one of a few that were made that to go out and to recon, that's all well and good. But that Dalek should not have any concept of who the Doctor is. If it left Skaro and has been buried on Earth for centuries, how does it even know who the Doctor is? Like, I know about the hive mind and stuff, but then
You have to remember there's a different timeline to Skaro against Earth. So, you know, you have to say that's probably a Dalek from a later period of Dalek history.
I'm assuming it's sometime after Genesis because, you know, there's a time after the Daleks had burrowed themselves out, you know, took over Skaro and then began sending probes out. That's my theory on it. That's why it would know the Doctor who he is.
yeah, I don't know. It was just a bit weird for me.
Okay, Connor?
No surprise that Philip Archer likes a Dalek turning knobs. But anyway, I think that they should have actually kept the Dalek secret, because I think that the one thing at the beginning of the episode that it did really well was hide the identity of the villain. Like, we knew that the Daleks were coming because it had leaked beforehand. We sort of even knew before it had leaked that it was going to be a Dalek. And then, of course, they did the adverts with the updated trailers. But if they had kept all that out, for the first 10, 15 minutes, you would never have guessed it was a Dalek, because you had the whole montage at the beginning with the islands and stuff, you know, bouncing around the place. You would never have thought it was a Dalek. It never once looked like a Dalek. It never once acted like a Dalek. So that would have almost added to the, you know, we've been complaining about a lack of promotion and a lack of spoilers, almost information, but I think it would have really have paid off for this particular episode, actually. And another thing was the twist, I would call it a twist, where the Dalek's been destroyed by something that's not the sonic screwdriver, which was a welcome change, and you think it's all over, and then it's not, because the Dalek mutant escaped, and it's now on Ryan's dad's back. So it was shocking in that actually the Doctor made a few mistakes. It was a little bit of a chain reaction of mistakes that she started, and then she I think she got a bit wound up, and then you sort of saw that kind of like not caring attitude when Ryan's dad was holding on for dear life. And then you got that little bit of, I guess, darkness in her Doctor, which we haven't seen. And I think just that little brief moment of time where she started to make mistakes, which is something that we don't usually see the Doctor do to any great extent, just added to the resolution of the episode. So I think that the final 15 minutes in particular was properly good written Doctor Who, especially by recent standards of like even the last 10 years. Just think it was just an impressive end to the episode, even though some people I know have complained that it was a little bit rushed. I didn't feel like it was.
Okay, Kevin?
Well, the Doctor said in the episode to one of those friends, Still call them companions for mine. Like the doctor said, I was once. I lived like a Dalek once, or something. Was she referring to the 12th Doctor in some way?
Good question.
Because I was thinking about that, because really Into the Dalek, he was like, the Dalek in that episode said, what do you see? Hatred. And,
As much as I try not to think of Into the Dalek, I agree. I was thinking of that too.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And really, guys, are we really going to take Twitter seriously these days? Actually, also with Trump. But really, people hate on stupid things, like, let's just say, Aquaman. But yeah, we don't. Yeah, people are always complaining about every little thing. You cannot take anybody happy these days in this year. You know what I mean. Twitter is always like a hate website these days, and nothing is about happiness or approval. It's always about hate, 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 and hate. And also, F Trump.
I could swear Twitter's secretly being run by, a bunch of guys on Scaro. Okay, Philip.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Did everybody enjoy the cameo of the new lovely scarf she wore for 5 minutes or more? That was all. It was like, yes, I'll go and buy one now. No.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, talk about obvious marketing ploy. Yeah.
I didn't even notice you had a scarf on.
Yeah, the $80 scarf. Yeah, it's like, oh, AJ.
That.
For me, at the very end of the episode, it sort of fell away. It felt a bit fairy tale-ish when you see the two archaeologists just standing side by side in front of the TARDIS, and they grab hands, and you see the TARDIS flies away like that, and it felt very almost fairy tale childlike. I didn't like that part.
I don't know. I thought it was a kind of nice resolution because it came back full circle in a way. Instead of having the group of enemies, you had a group of friends, as he states in the end narration, that came together and defeated this enemy, just like they did at the beginning, but with a slight difference. So I could see why they went that way. Yeah. Plus, it was already being hinted at that these two had some kind of relationship in the brewing all the way back at the beginning. So they were kind of like tying it up a little bit, as I think that they're doing with that scene. Okay, anything else? Thoughts? Happy places? Sad places? Because we've been going on for a little bit under an hour now, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this baby up, and we're going to rate this sucker and put it to bed. All right, starting at the bottom, DWC out of 10. How do you rate Resolution?
Came back in just in time. 7.
All right, Paul? You're muted, Paul. What did you say?
That better 9.
Okay, Connor?
I'll give it a 9.
All right, Beef?
I'll give it a 6.5. There were pacing issues with it. Some of the jokes did fall flat for me. The Men in Black cops getting sucked into the car. It's a step in the right direction, and I hope that they're just points kept, and that they decide to put away some of the sort of sillier aspects, to be honest with you, that I just think fall flat at the moment. So yeah, it's a step in the right direction, but it will do. This still could have been Christmas. Instead of having fireworks, they could have had Christmas celebrations. So really, it could have been Christmas or New Year's. It would have made a difference.
Texas Tim?
I gave it an 8.
Kevin?
I give it a 9.
Philip?
Because of the Ryan and the dad part, that kind of spoiled it for me. But overall, it's an innovative story. It done something new with the Dalek, and that's good. They did what they wanted to do. So I'm going to give it an 8.5.
All right, Bo?
I'm giving it a 9. It was a really great episode.
Okay, William?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, and I just don't like that we're gonna have a long wait before the next season returns.
All right, Ryan.
Until I do get a chance to rewatch it, I'm gonna have to sit at about a 6. As far as a new episode, new concepts of the Dalek goes, it's definitely more of a success than Into the Dalek was, for sure. Definitely presented the Dalek as a threat, which you definitely want to do. You don't want to undermine the Daleks in any way. But yeah, as an episode, I think it falls a little bit flat.
All right, Graham.
Interesting take. You almost have what the reverse engineering of a Dalek here, so very interesting concept. Major points have been hit. I'll be at an 8.5. Enjoyable.
All right, AJ.
An 8.5 for me was an overall improvement, but I think the best part was to see the Dalek is an adrenaline junkie. Faster, put your foot down faster.
And I'm going to be evilly mean and give it a 9.5 because this is the closest they've gotten to a 10 for me this year. Closest they've gotten. The highest I think I've rated any other episode was like a 9. And the only reason I'm taking away 0.5 really is, once again, because of the issues with the Ryan's dad thing, kind of took away from the pacing, took away from the story a bit. But at the same time, I can understand why he was there at the end. I'm beginning to wonder, especially when they came to the point where they had him hanging out the door, I thought for sure, okay, if they don't kill him, then something's going on with this guy that we don't know about yet. So maybe that's why they spared him. There's something that's going to come up with Ryan Sinclair's dad later on that we don't know about. Now, like I said, I just speculated maybe he's a party unit. Maybe he's into something top secret because he obviously had some really good technical skills to rewire a microwave on the fly into a weapon, which kind of shows me there's something a little bit more to this guy we just don't quite know yet. Is he secretly the new James Bond? Maybe. They could go that route. Idris Elba ain't available. This guy is. No, okay, I'm just joking with you. So, folks, until, a year or so from now, until now they're saying very early 2020, but like I said, I got a couple sources saying early spring. So, I don't know.
That's better than nothing, man. Early spring is good enough for me.
Exactly. So until we get more details.
You're a liar in the biggest sense, man.
Well, we got one Finn. And we got one Finn that's Doctor Who, and that is Big Finish this year.
Yeah, we do. We still have Big Finish out there going around.
So really, they can stay 2 years away from me. I got Big Finish. So.
Yeah, don't worry about Unit or anything like that. Like I said, they didn't disband them. They didn't dismantle them. They just said they are suspended pending a review.
Brexit.
Yeah, it was just a clever way to get them out of the story without everybody going, "How come Unit wasn't involved?" Well, we took care of that. We tried. Oh, well, folks, until next time, everybody please enjoy the new year. Hopefully it'll be better than the last one. And we'll see you on the next edition. I don't know when it's going to be because my work schedule is going to go to hell very shortly. So,
Happy New Year.
Be seeing you.
So, be seeing y'all. Have a great day.
Ryan's dad's just picking up the post and putting the bins out.